Happy 66th birthday to the United States Air Force, and happy birthday to those of you serving in Lajes, Azores. I wish that I could be there with you in person, but maybe there's a bonus. Maybe I'll look younger and thinner on camera. Regardless, I would rather be there with you than here. I'm thinking of a great Broadway song from, I believe, South Pacific. There is an island in the Pacific, and everything about it is terrific. And I'm changing the words. There is an island in the Atlantic, and everything about it is romantic. And I know that Lajes, Azores is very romantic. And the way I know is that I've been there 4 times. I first came in 1976. I was a traveling leadership instructor. Chief Sheridan was the command chief at the time. Probably the most interesting thing was the Air Force commander's name was Wiggly, and the Navy commander's name was Quigley, and I thought that was coincidental, the Wiggly-Quigley show, if you will. I stopped back by there in 1977 for refueling on my way to Heraklion on Crete with the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force. We were only there a couple hours. Came back in 1978 for a CMSAF visit. Played golf at Tercera, bought some tablecloths on the economy, ate at a couple of nice restaurants, did a TV interview. I remember the great visit. And then I was there in 2005 when Colonel Jacoby, female commander, was the wing commander, and my friend Chief Doug Hodge was the command chief. So I'm very familiar with your assignment there, and I just thank you for the achievements that you provide to our overall Air Force mission. In my travels, when I open it up to questions, invariably I'm asked, how's the Air Force of today changed from the Air Force of the early day? On 8 September 1948, 65 years ago, I became a part of our great Air Force and have served for 65 consecutive years. So I have seen the evolution, the transitions. And to answer the question, I put together a talk that hopefully is of interest, the 4 T's. To answer the question, how's the Air Force changed? How's the progress occurred? I have 4 T words that you're supposed to be trying to think of in advance of my comment. At the same time, before I start on the 4 T's, I want to address a recent document that the Air Force published, the core mission statement, Global Vigilance, Global Reach, Global Power. I truly believe that those two are merged, the transition of the Air Force and the core statement of today. I believe that the 4 T words address both of those, so let's get started. T word number 1, training. The Air Force of today is much better trained. I live in San Antonio, Texas, and I have access to Lackland Air Force Base. I go to the parades frequently. I have spoken at the Beast. I visit training units throughout Lackland, and I can assure you that the initial training now being received by our young men and women far exceeds anything we ever gave before. I was in MTI in the mid-50s, and I can assure you, although we thought we were hot stuff, the training provided today is much more, it's clear, it's much more identified to fit the need. And now let's go to Keesler, Shepherd, Fort Meade, Goodfellow, Monterey, California, Fort Leonard Wood. I've been to all of those places to observe the technical training that each of you did receive. And I can tell you, I do a lot of time saying ooh and ah at the mock-ups and the sophistication of the training that is being received. Add to that about 70 Airmen leadership schools, a dozen or so Air Force academies, a senior academy, and you have to agree that the preparation and the training being received today far exceeds what we were able to give in the past. T word number 2, technology. All the gadgets and the devices and the pieces of equipment that you now have access to, the switches that you flip when you enter the workplace. I am amazed as I go through avionics shops and intelligence units and even vehicle maintenance at Whiteman, Missouri, to see the equipment that is now available, the technology, the advancements that we have made that we didn't always have. Let's pretend for a moment. Let's pretend we have all the equipment. Let's pretend we have the latest technological advancement. And let's pretend that we have no airmen able to utilize or maintain it, to operate or maintain it. What good would the equipment be? Let's pretend that our airmen are highly trained, that there's not a piece of equipment that they are not able to operate. And let's pretend that we don't have any of the equipment. What good would the training be? But you know what? If you take those two and put them together, airmen who are capable of operating and maintaining the equipment and the availability of the equipment, it is my belief that what you now have is mission accomplishment. May possibly be the best definition of mission accomplishment you'll ever hear. Trained airmen, highly skilled, performing in their career field with the state-of-the-art equipment that is now available, and I can guarantee you that we have a posture of readiness that truly is global vigilance, global reach, global power. The third T word, I had to get a bit clever, I had to be creative because I wanted to keep with the 4 T's. The third T is tribe. Tribe, speaking of the early American native, the Indian tribe. Of course, I'm talking about family, but if I said family, you wouldn't know what I was talking about. But I'm talking about the progress that we have made in caring for our family, to where we truly have become a genuine Air Force family. I'm an expert in this regard. Selma and I had 3 children, 2 years old, 1 year old, and 6-week old when I received orders for a year in Kunsan, Korea in 1956. I can assure you there were no programs available to provide for my family. There were no daycare centers, no family readiness programs, nowhere for her to turn had she needed some assistance or guidance. And so I have observed in detail the progress that we have made in including the family into the total structure of our overall Air Force mission. I went to the Lackland Parade about a week ago, and although there were only 6 flights of trainees graduating, the stands were filled. I would estimate 600 or 800 moms and dads and aunts and uncles and sweethearts and spouses and children that were there to observe the graduation. That's a far cry from 1957, when we would actually encourage the trainee to tell mom and dad, stay away from Lackland, we don't want you here and we don't need you here. So there is incredible evidence that we have made great strides in including the family into the structure of our Air Force. Review of the question, how's the Air Force changed? How are we going to maintain the postures that we want to maintain? I suggest it begins with training, technology, and taking care of the tribe or the family and including them in the overall scheme of our great Air Force. The 4th T word might be a bit of a surprise to you. You hopefully have been trying to figure out what the word might be. It's a very passionate word for me because I entered an Air Force where there was an absence of it. And so I can tell you, it's much better to do your job and to come to work each day when my 4th T word is available, the word trust. I entered an Air Force in 1948 where there was an absence of trust. You could get in trouble by not initialing your name whenever it appeared on the bulletin board. We had the annual clothing inspection where we had to display every item of clothing on the bed to ensure that we had the complete issue. My wife received an allotment check. They wouldn't even give me my pay. She received a portion of that pay in a check that only she could cash. The best example of a lack of trust for me is my career field, Air Police. When the badge first came out in 1956, I was a master sergeant, but I didn't get to keep my badge. I had to check it in and out every time that I went to work. I remember asking my sergeant, why don't you just issue me my badge? And I'll be wearing it when I come to work. No, he said, You'll be trying to get in movies free or flash it to ride the city bus without paying. And I remember thinking, you allow me to guard a multi-million-dollar airplane and you won't let me have my badge. Now, I don't know when this trust came into play. It was so gradual that it was not visible. But I can tell you what, over the years, through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I was there when we replaced lieutenant colonels as NCO Academy commandants with chief master sergeants and captains at airmen leadership schools with master sergeants. I have witnessed procurement and contracting specialists handling multi-million-dollar contracts and purchases with 3 or 4 stripes on their arm. I can assure you that there is a much more of a trust now to go along with the training and the technological advancement to where our people are now able to perform in a much more professional and smoother fashion. I have a comment though. When you speak of global vigilance, reach, and power, how do we do that? How do we maintain that? I suggest to you that a team is only as good as each individual player. A football team, unless each 11 of the players does their job and contributes, the team is not going to win the game. And the same is true in the Air Force. You can talk wingman, teamwork, you can talk global this and that. I suggest it all begins with you, the individual. And I would ask each of you, when you have a moment, to take a step back and ask yourself, have you taken advantage of the training and are you continuing to learn? Do you know how to operate that equipment and to maintain it and utilize it to its full capability? Are you aware of the importance of family? And are you taking care of your family? And are you ensuring that we do everything that we can to promote that process? And do you earn trust? Are you trusted? If not, why not? Do you trust those you work with? Do you trust the Air Force leaders, the Air Force system? These 4 words are very powerful in our great Air Force of today. A good example of the points that I'm trying to make is within a man whose name you will recognize immediately, a true American Air Force hero, John Levitow, Sergeant John Levitow. John and I became very close friends in the decade of the 80s, the 90s, and until his death of cancer in Hartford, Connecticut. John and I became very close, and on one occasion we were at an event at Little Rock Air Force Base, Arkansas. I was there to speak and John was there to present some awards. After the event ended, we went into the casual bar to enjoy a cool beverage. We were sitting there and we were talking, and John loved to tease, and John, sometimes it was difficult to get him in a serious vein. But I said to John that evening as we sat there, John, you're one of my heroes. And he responded, I don't particularly like that word hero. I don't see myself as a hero. I said, John, you can believe what you want, but I can guarantee you, those of us that have read of what you did, your courage, you shall forever be a hero. To remind you of John's courage, he was in the back of an AC-47 gunship when a highly inflammable flare ignited, and John threw his body upon the flare, bellied over to the door of the aircraft, and threw it out into the night. John was burnt so badly that the crew members thought that he would die prior to their landing. And so I said to John, about how long did that entire event take? He pondered for a moment and he said, you know, I've thought about that. He said, maybe 15 to 20 seconds from the moment I spotted the lit flare until I did what I did. My gosh, John, I asked, what were you thinking? Well, he said, I'm not sure I was thinking. He said, had I been thinking, I might not have done it. Well, I said, John, now that begs a question. What caused you to do what you did? What kicked in? What took over? And he thought for a moment, and he answered seriously. He said, you know, a couple of things kicked in over which I had no control. He said, just automatically, it just happened. 2 words. I thought, wow, I want to hear those 2 words, and I'm sure you do too. Training and discipline. He said, the training that I had been given, the training that I had received through basic training in tech school, provided me with the confidence and the skill I needed to do what I did. And he said, discipline just simply kicked in. Not questioning what is it I'm going to do or why, but simply doing it. A powerful message for each of us. And it talks about the celebration of our great Air Force, the achievements over the years, the great heroes, the Colonel Bud Day, the General David C. Jones, who recently passed away. You read back the glorious past of the Air Force, and you can see that it's filled with airmen like you and like me and like those we serve with, and our family members who take advantage of the training, who become professional, who utilize the equipment, who manage the resources, who take care of the family, who not only enjoy the trust they receive, but build trust. It enables us to celebrate our glorious history and to prepare for the future of global vigilance, global reach, global power. Happy birthday, United States Air Force. I am so proud and privileged that I had an opportunity to serve for 65 years. And I say happy birthday to those of you in Lajes, Azores, who serve professionally and faithfully on an ongoing basis. Enjoy the evening. A toast to the United States Air Force. Travel safely. Thank you.